With the QK100 in pre-order and group buy right now, it's time to do the rounds and check out what Qwertykeys keyboards are all about and figure out whether they are worth spending your money on with so many nice group buy and in-stock keyboards out there. I'll be unboxing, building and reviewing the QK75 in this video, which will give you a clear indication of what Qwertykeys keyboards are all about. As may be the case with you, I'm kinda new to the group buy keyboard world, as buying something months before you get it takes a bit of getting used to, and group buy are ingrained in the hobby, so it's best to just get used to it. Getting the same availability and value for money in Europe hasn't always been easy either, but this has got so much better thanks to companies like Prototypist serving the UK, and Keygem, CandyKeys, MyKeyboard.eu, and many others serving the EU. The QK75, obviously the 75% version in the lineup, is my first Qwertykeys keyboard. It caught my eye primarily because it looked like a premium €400 keyboard available for 200, but there is a lot of that going around at the moment, so the price alone doesn't make it an easy choice. The cheapest configurations on the QK100 are just $170 as a kit, or as low as $150 if you want to go plateless, which is cheaper than the Keychron Q5. You'd be forgiven for thinking this is perhaps too good to be true, so you're right to look at reviews on the existing lineup, even if you've missed a group buy for them. If you buy directly from Qwertykeys, it's a simple case of highlighting your choice of component in each section to configure your keyboard, with the price altering slightly depending on what components you choose. If you join a group buy or pre-order from a vendor, it can be a bit more complicated, but they will specify what you must order to complete the kit, with other stuff available as optional add-ons. Just watch out for what's included with the keyboard and what's only available as an optional extra. So let's have a look at what I went for with the QK75. The unboxing is up there with the other premium keyboards in my collection, and it even one-ups some of them by coming with this hard shell fabric case. Exactly what you get inside depends on what you've purchased. For my build, I went for the anodized blue case with a dusk sandblasted PVD external weight and a black stainless steel encoder knob. The case also came with a red brass internal weight included, and in the wireless kit it covers the batteries. I went for the tri-mode PCB option, which came with a switch mat, plate foam and case foam. This kit can be built plateless, so plates are optional extras, you don't get one included in the kit. I went for polycarbonate, POM and FR4 for a comparison typing test. In the box you also get the encoder with a ribbon wire for connecting it to the PCB, you get the gaskets, the feet, the stabilizers, the dampening, the 2.4 GHz receiver, and all the tools and screws needed for the build. So let's move on to the build. We'll build it out with the FR4 plate, and I'll do a comparison to the polycarbonate and POM plates in the typing test. First things first, we stick on the feet to protect the bottom of the keyboard during the build. Then I remove the internal weight to get a look at the battery setup. Mine came with what looks like two 2200 mAh batteries, which would give some serious battery life considering the QK75 doesn't have any particularly power hungry features. Next I did my go-to lube job on the stabilizers, which is Krytox 205 grade 0 on the stems and in the housings, then dielectric grease on the wires. Next we install the stabilizer stickers, which act as stab shims I guess, then we install the stabilizers. I recently found out that shims are supposed to be installed on the underside of the PCB. I've always had housing size shims which fit perfectly between the stabs and PCB, so it never occurred to me that they should go underneath, which I probably should have done with these stickers as well. I was aware of the fact that these stabilizer stickers and foams can sometimes make the stabs feel mushy on the bottom out, so I tested the spacebar before moving on, and it was fine, so I installed the rest. With all the stabs in, I tested them before moving on. Now we can move on to assembly of the plate and PCB. As you can see, the PCB has flex cuts under the alphas, so we'll see what that does to the sound before seeing if we need to use tape on the PCB or not. I decided to run with no switch mat, as I'm only really a fan of that sound profile in budget plastic keyboards, but I will run with the plate foam. You first have to cut the spacebar section of the foam before installation. Next we can place the FR4 plate on top. There are no screws for securing the PCB and plate together, it's just secured with the switches. For my build, I'm running with the Aflion Tropical Waters V1, which is a very nice factory lube long pole linear switch. The gaskets are installed on the PCB, and it's best to do this at this stage when you have the plate and PCB together, otherwise they'll keep dropping off while you're working. Next we have some case prep to do. I secured the ribbon wire in the encoder, then installed it. I assumed the extra case screws were for the encoder, but they were too long. The only screws in the kit that fit were what I assumed to be the extra stabilizer screws. They did the job and I had enough in the kit, so these must be the ones. Next I removed the internal weight to make room for plugging in the batteries, plugged them into the JST connectors on the daughter board, then reinstalled the weight. I'm running with case dampening, so with that in, we plug the daughter board into the PCB, secure the ribbon wire in the connector, and land the plate and PCB assembly in the bottom case on the gaskets. Install the top case on the bottom case and secure it with the 5 case screws which are inserted down through the top case, which gives it a nice clean look on the bottom. Finally, we install the keycaps, and for my build I went for the GMK Sunset Surfing set with the orange accents, which are just the perfect colour for the anodized blue case. It looks absolutely beautiful, apart from the fact that during the build I've managed to get some Krytox or dielectric grease on the external weight which cannot be removed. I used the provided cloth and tried to clean it, which didn't work. Then I used a tiny amount of water as a last ditch effort, even though the sticker tells you not to, but apparently this was enough to permanently tarnish the weight. Oh well, lesson learned. Let's move on to the typing tests. I'll be showing the keyboard in the configuration you've just seen me build, but with a comparison between all 3 plates. So let's talk about some things that jump out at me about this keyboard. The first thing I have to talk about is the quality. For me, there is nothing to distinguish between this and my other premium keyboards, which are the Mode Sonnet and the KBD Fans Odin V2, both of which cost double what this did. The case is beautifully made, as are all the other components, and I love the fact that it has both external and internal weights, which does bring me on to my only gripe, which is that the coating on my dusk sandblasted weight is just way too easy to permanently tarnish. I'm sure if I had read up about this enough I could have found this out before I bought it and gone for another finish, but for me you shouldn't be able to permanently mark anything on a keyboard just by having a bit of liquid or lube on your fingers. The next thing to talk about is the typing sound and feel. Obviously it depends on what you build yours out with, but with the GMK keycaps and Aflion Tropical Waters long pole switches I went for, it ended up with this gorgeous marbly sound profile. The alphas sound wonderful, and the spacebar chimes in with kind of an over-the-top marbly sound to really accent the overall sound profile. This brings me on to the stabilizers, which feature this rounded profile in the bottom of the stems as you often see now, but it's a feature that's executed perfectly on these stabilizers, meaning that you don't get rattled for a long time with a decent lube job. I've not had to re-lube them after weeks of use. These are the best stabilizers I've used to date, including my previous favourites, the Stabies V2s. Next I have to talk about the aesthetic. I absolutely adore the look of this keyboard. It's very simple yet not without some niceties. I love an external weight even though I should have gone for a different finish, and while the polished encoder knob is a bit of a fingerprint magnet, it just looks and feels quality. I think the GMK Sunset Surfing keycap set matches the anodized blue colourway perfectly, and with all the different colours available, it's just so much fun deciding on your build out while configuring your keyboard before buying it. Finally, you have to mention the price. As a European, I have to take it on the chin that most stuff is going to cost me more, but even I was able to buy the QK75 kit with 3 plates for just €266 including shipping from Germany to Spain. It would have been just €216 all in if I had gone for just the 1 plate. This price blows my mind when I think about what you get. So if you're looking at the current QK100, the QK60 R2, or any of the upcoming Qwertykeys lineup, All I can say is that I can't recommend these keyboards enough. Setting aside the price, it's a wonderful premium keyboard, well worth a chunk of anyone's money, and factoring in the price, well, it's an amazing entry-level priced group buy keyboard which absolutely everyone in the hobby should experience. Let me know in the comments below if and when you get the QK100 or the QK60 R2, as I'd love to know what they're like. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.